This is Paul from Indianapolis, back with you with another video, and thank you very much for just taking the time to watch, and I hope you're having a good day, and I hope you enjoy this video. Last video I talked about my Uncle Ross and just his influence and impact on my collecting. When I was around 10 to 12, he gave me a stack of cards of 55 tops, 55 Bowman, and 56 tops. And he gave me one 56 tops card, and that card was the card that really captured my curiosity, my imagination into just vintage cards. And I already enjoyed and was curious about history and connecting baseball and history together. And this was the card he gave me. He gave me this card of Roy Sievers of the Washington Nationals, and 56 Top Cents has been my favorite set and the one that I have the most of and just collect the most of vintage wise. And as I was looking at this card, and just after that last video, I was just thinking of just Roy Sievers' story and who was he, what was he about, and just who was he as a player. And so this video is about the story of the player behind the card. Roy Sievers was born in 1926 in the north side of St. Louis. He grew up in the shadows of Sportsman Park, which was where the Browns and the Cardinals played their home games. He grew up just 2 blocks away and would regularly go to the games and got to see some great players through the Gas House Gang and of the Cardinals teams of the 30s and 40s, early 40s, and got to see some good players with the Browns as well. Roy was surrounded by baseball, not only with the Browns and Cardinals in his neighborhood, but also in his home. His dad was a big baseball fan and had tried playing semi-pro baseball. When he got to high school, he went to Beaumont High School and just had an excellent career there. And while he was on the varsity team, there was a Hall of Famer on the JV team. This guy, Earl Weaver, was on the JV team while he was on the varsity team at the same high school, and that's a cool little connection. Well, Roy ended up signing with the Browns. He thought that would be the faster route of the two between the Browns and the Cardinals to make it to the major league. So he signed, and after a couple years in the minors, he finally made it to the majors in 1949, and he won the AL Rookie of the Year. He had a great season with 16 home runs, 91 RBIs, batted .306, which ended up being his career high. And he had a WAR of 2.2. He won in spite of his team. His team was one of the worst. And so he, after winning the Rookie of the Year in 1949, he ended up having a really bad sophomore slump and got demoted to the minors and ended up playing in San Antonio. And it was at this point that he got injured, and he injured his shoulder, and this shoulder injury would affect his career for the next 3 years. He was not able to play that much. He was not able to lift his arm above his shoulder. He wasn't able to throw the ball from the outfield, which had been his position. He tried to play first base and work that in. He also could not swing with power like he had been. And so his career was sidetracked for a bit, and he was only able to play about 250 games through 4 seasons. And with the help of the trainer of the St. Louis Browns, Bob Bauman, and the owner, Bill Veeck, they were able to help him find his swing again and get him back on track. And in 1954, he had over 20 home runs, and he just had a steady career over his 17 years. He ended up hitting 20 or more home runs for 9 straight years, 1954 to 1963. He had 2 great seasons for when the Browns moved to Baltimore. Baltimore traded him to Washington. That he had 2 great seasons in 1957 and 1958. And in 57, he had 42 home runs, 114 RBIs, he batted .301. And in 1958, he had 39 home runs, 108 RBIs, and he batted .295. And he had a WAR of 4.6 and 3.6 in those 2 years. And both those were with poor teams, and yet he was able to find success. He was third in the MVP voting in 57, and he made 5 All-Star games through this period. And so even though he was on a poor team, he was determined, he was able to find success. And it just reminded me of a player of my childhood, and that was this guy right here, Dale Murphy. So Dale Murphy was just a good, steady player that I would call like a generational player. People of the 80s would know who Dale Murphy is. Beyond that and after, very few would know other than folks in Atlanta. But Dale Murphy won MVP in 82, 83. He was a steady, solid player on a bad team, other than 1982 when the Braves made it to the playoffs. And so as I was hearing Sievers' story, I was just reminded of Dale Murphy. And for you all listening, who is a player that he reminds you of that your generation would know, but following generations would not know as a player that was kind of a generational star and not a transgenerational star. He did not go beyond generations as far as their stardom. But Roy Sievers was a determined player. He grew up in the Great Depression. He didn't have a lot. His parents worked hard, and he was a hard worker as a player. And he was determined, and he was not going to give up this chance of his love for baseball and to just make something. This was all he knew, baseball, and he wanted to be successful. And so that's what got him through those 3 to 4 years of just trying to refine his form, to heal his body. And he had other little injuries along the way as well. But that determination, and that's what stood out to me as I read about and just learned about Roy Sievers' career. I think of his personality and character and integrity of who he was his determination, that he fought through those injuries that had really limited him for 3 or 4 years and put in the hard work because he had a dream, he had a hope, and he loved the game of baseball, and he wanted to keep playing. And he did refine his form, and as I heard that, I was just excited for him that he was able to be successful again after having one season of success and 3 to 4 seasons of struggle, and then to find success again. I mean, that's the way life is sometimes, and he kept fighting. When he ended up in Washington, which is where this card was, the St. Louis Browns moved to Baltimore in 1954, and Sievers was still injured. He was still hurt. He was still limited. He didn't fit within the Orioles' plans, and they just didn't have much hope and belief that he'd find that form back in 49. So they traded him to Washington, and he enjoyed Washington as a city. He dined with former presidents. He dined with Nixon and Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy. He got to meet Nikita Khrushchev, who was the leader of the Soviet Union then. He enjoyed and was curious, even though he just had a high school education. He was curious about the political and global and cultural realities of Washington, D.C., of the U.S., and beyond through his time there, as he was just able to interact with political people, political figures within the U.S. and around the world. So Sievers was also known for something else. He was known for his sweet swing. He was a right-hander, and I saw quotes from Casey Stengel, Charlie Gehringer of the Tigers of the 30s and 40s, and they both just talked about how sweet and great a swing he had. So when Sievers was growing up, he watched, like I said, he got to watch a lot of baseball. And his favorite player to watch, and the player that he modeled his swing after, was Joe Ducky Medwick, who had a great swing as well. And that was his inspiration. That was his model. And so that's where he got his sweet swing. And he was known for that. Like Ted Williams was known for his swing as well. It was so good, and he was known for it so much that during the 1950s movie, The Damn Yankees, he was a swing dummy for one of the characters. They used his swing within that movie. So I hope you enjoyed learning about Roy Sievers. I'll just share one more card. This is the only other card I have of Roy Sievers. I have 59 tops of Roy Sievers. But He is a guy worth learning and knowing about, and I'm glad I explored his story a bit and got to know him a bit more. And I just thank you very much for your time and of just watching this video. And feel free to comment. And if you haven't subscribed, to subscribe as well. Hope you have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye.